In every corner of Greek mythology, there are stories shaped by fate, touched by the gods, and carried across centuries through art, poetry, and imagination. Among these stories, one stands out for its quiet power, the tale of Danae. She is a princess imprisoned by fear, a mother chosen by destiny, and a figure whose image has inspired artists from ancient Greece to the modern world. In this video, we will explore not only the myth of Danae, but also how her story has been retold through sculpture, painting, and symbolism for more than 2,000 years. From the earliest Greek vase paintings to the golden brilliance of Gustav Klimt, Danae's image has transformed with each era, reflecting changing ideas about beauty, divinity, and the human experience. So settle in, relax, and let's journey through myth and art history to discover why Danae remains one of the most enduring and captivating figures of the ancient world. Asterisk. Danae is one of the most fascinating figures in Greek mythology, not only because she is the mother of Perseus, but because her story has echoed through centuries of art, symbolism, and cultural imagination. To understand her myth is to understand how ancient people viewed fate, divine intervention, and the power of prophecy. And to follow her image through art history is to watch how each era reinterpreted her story through its own values, aesthetics, and beliefs. The story begins in the ancient city of Argos, where King Acrisius ruled with a heavy heart. Despite his power, he had no male heir, only a daughter named Danae. Desperate for answers, Acrisius traveled to the Oracle of Delphi, hoping for guidance or reassurance. Instead, he received a prophecy that would haunt him. Danae would one day give birth to a son who would kill him. In Greek mythology, prophecies are not warnings, they are inevitabilities. But Acrisius believed he could outsmart fate. To prevent Danae from ever becoming a mother, he imprisoned her in a sealed bronze chamber. Some versions describe it as a tower, others as an underground room, but all agree on one thing: it was designed to be escape-proof. No man could reach her. No child could be born. Acrisius believed he had defeated destiny, but the gods, especially Zeus, do not respect mortal attempts to control fate. Zeus saw Danae in her isolation and was moved by her beauty and loneliness. Since the chamber was impenetrable, he visited her in a miraculous form, a shower of golden light or golden rain that filled the room. This moment became one of the most iconic scenes in Greek mythology, a symbol of divine power entering the mortal world in a form that is both gentle and unstoppable. From this encounter, Danae conceived a child. When Perseus was born, Acrisius was horrified. He feared the prophecy, but he also feared angering Zeus. So he chose a cruel compromise. He placed Danae and her newborn son into a wooden chest and cast them into the sea. This was a common motif in ancient myths, the sea as both a threat and a path to salvation. The chest drifted across the waves until it reached the island of Seriphos, where a kind fisherman named Dictys found them and offered them shelter. Danae raised Perseus there, far from her father's fear and cruelty. As Perseus grew, he would eventually become one of the greatest heroes of Greek mythology, famous for slaying Medusa and rescuing Andromeda. But the prophecy still lingered. Many years later, during an athletic competition, Perseus accidentally struck Acrisius with a discus, fulfilling the oracle's prediction in a tragic but unintended way. This ending reinforces a central theme of Greek myth: fate cannot be escaped, no matter how desperately mortals try. Danae's story, with its themes of prophecy, imprisonment, divine visitation, and miraculous birth, became a powerful source of inspiration for artists across centuries. In ancient Greek art, Danae appears primarily on pottery and vase paintings. These early depictions focus on the moment of the golden shower or the scene of Danae and baby Perseus inside the wooden chest. Greek artists often use symbolic imagery rather than literal representation. Zeus might be shown as a stream of dots, rays, or stylized droplets descending toward Danae. These early artworks emphasize the divine nature of the event and the inevitability of fate. As we move into the classical and Hellenistic periods, Danaë appears in more detailed sculptures and reliefs. Artists became increasingly interested in the emotional dimension of her story, the vulnerability of a woman imprisoned by her own father, the wonder of divine intervention, and the tenderness of a mother protecting her child at sea. These works reflect the Greek fascination with human emotion and the interplay between mortal fragility and divine power. Centuries later, during the Renaissance, Danaë's story experienced a major revival. Renaissance artists were deeply inspired by classical mythology, and Danaë offered them a perfect subject, a beautiful woman, a dramatic prophecy, and a moment of divine transformation. One of the most famous Renaissance depictions is by Titian, who painted multiple versions of Danaë and the Shower of Gold. In Titian's hands, the myth becomes sensual, luminous, and deeply human. Danaë is shown reclining, bathed in warm golden light, her expression a mixture of serenity and wonder. The golden shower becomes a symbol of divine love, artistic beauty, and even wealth. Titian's versions were so influential that many later artists borrowed his composition, color palette, and emotional tone. Another Renaissance master, Correggio, painted a softer, more dreamlike version of Danaë. His work emphasizes the gentle, almost spiritual quality of the golden light. Correggio's Danaë seems suspended between the mortal world and the divine, capturing the moment when fate enters her life in the form of light dot in the Baroque period. Artists like Rembrandt and Orazio Gentileschi reinterpreted Danaë with dramatic lighting and emotional depth. Rembrandt's Danaë is particularly striking. She reaches out toward the unseen presence of Zeus, her face illuminated by a warm, almost theatrical glow. Rembrandt transforms the myth into a moment of psychological intensity, focusing on Danaë's anticipation and vulnerability. Orazio Gentileschi, on the other hand, paints Danaë with elegance and serenity, emphasizing the beauty of the female form and the softness of the golden light. The story continued to evolve in the hands of Orazio Gentileschi, one of the most important female artists in history. Her version of Danaë carries a subtle but powerful shift in perspective. As a woman who experienced violence and injustice in her own life, Artemisia often painted mythological women with strength, dignity, and emotional complexity. Her Danaë is not merely an object of divine desire. She is a woman experiencing a moment that will change her destiny. Artemisia's interpretation adds layers of agency and humanity that earlier male artists often overlooked by the time we reach the 19th and early 20th centuries. Danaë becomes a symbol of sensuality, transformation, and psychological depth. The most famous modern depiction is by Gustav Klimt, whose 1907 to 1908 painting Danaë is a masterpiece of symbolism and eroticism. Klimt wraps Danaë in flowing, organic shapes and envelops her in a cascade of gold leaf. The golden shower becomes a swirling, almost cosmic force, representing not just Zeus, but the overwhelming power of desire, fate, and transformation. Klimt's Danaë is introspective, dreamlike, and deeply modern, a woman experiencing a private moment of transcendence. Klimt's interpretation also reflects the changing attitudes of his time. The early 20th century was a period of psychological exploration, symbolism, and artistic experimentation. Danaë's myth, with its themes of confinement, divine encounter, and transformation, resonated with artists exploring the subconscious, sexuality, and the boundaries between the physical and spiritual worlds. Throughout art history, Danaë's story has served as a canvas for exploring beauty, vulnerability, fate, and the relationship between mortals and the divine. Each era reimagined her according to its own values. The Greeks emphasized fate and symbolism. The Renaissance celebrated beauty and divine light. The Baroque explored emotion and drama. And modern artists like Klimt turned the myth into a psychological and symbolic experience. What makes Danaë so enduring is not just her connection to Perseus or Zeus, but the emotional and symbolic richness of her story. She is a woman caught between prophecy and destiny, between confinement and transformation, between mortal fear and divine intervention. Her image has been shaped and reshaped by artists for over 2,000 years, each one finding something new in her myth, something timeless, something human, something divine. Danae's story reminds use that myths are more than ancient tales. They are living ideas that evolve with every generation. Her life, shaped by prophecy and transformed by divine light, became a symbol of vulnerability, resilience, and destiny. And through the hands of artists across centuries, she has been reborn again and again as a figure of classical beauty, a muse of Renaissance imagination, a subject of Baroque emotion, and finally, a modern icon shimmering in Klimt's gold. Her image has traveled farther than the wooden chest that once carried her across the sea. It has crossed cultures, eras, and artistic movements, revealing how deeply myth can influence the way we see the world and ourselves. Thank you for joining this exploration of Danae's myth and its legacy in art history. If you enjoyed this journey through ancient stories and timeless artworks, feel free to stay for more myths, more history, and more hidden meanings behind the images that shaped our world.